Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH The Flame Emperor episode number 28 based on novel. So let's start. The moment the 22 flames of different colors just touched, a muffled thunder-like sound erupted from Xiao Yan's palm. Immediately, his hands were ripped apart and blood was flowing. Looking at the posture, if it wasn't for the huge fighting spirit in his palms protecting his back, I'm afraid it would have been blown off on the spot. Resisting the severe pain from the palm of his hand, Xiao Yan's dark eyes looked at the 22 strange fires that had just begun to merge in front of him. The flames inside looked extremely strange and gloomy. Gritting his teeth, Xiao Yan ignored the terrifying and violent energy emanating from the collision of the different fires, which caused the space to begin to distort, his hands tightly clasped in the middle. The distance between the palms was only half a centimeter, but this half centimeter allowed Xiao Yan to fully mobilize every trace of power in the cells in his body, so that he could move slowly. The three-winged unicorn stared at Xiao Yan, who was like a madman. Although he knew that under such circumstances, it would be inappropriate to stay here, but for Xiao Yan to have as many as 22 kinds of flames from heaven and earth at the same time, he was quite jealous, but he insisted on staying. He wanted to see this arrogant guy with his own eyes, and he was playing with his own bones. After all, with his experience as a three-winged unicorn in this Dodi continent, he had never heard that someone could use flames like this. Fresh blood continued to overflow from his palms, and the 22 flames with terrifying power in front of him began to gradually compress, but obviously, at the same time as the compression, Xiao Yan was also enduring 22 different types of fire. Backlash. At a certain moment, Xiao Yan finally groaned, spit out a mouthful of blood, fell into the flames, and was instantly burned into nothingness. But the strange thing is that the blood spitting out of Xiao's mouth entered the huge flame light group, and the flames that were slowly merging with 22 different types of fire suddenly seemed to be stimulated, the violent factor that was finally suppressed by Xiao Yan. It is also exploding. Fix it for me. Gritting his teeth, Xiao Yan stubbornly stared at the 22 intertwined flames in front of him. He knew in his heart that his actions were undoubtedly extremely stupid, but after a moment of pondering, he was still in this way, he went on his own way, and in his heart, he had his own obsession. This first attempt to integrate 22 different types of fire is undoubtedly extremely crazy, but Xiao Yan relies on the magical effect of burning dew. Even if the process will be twists and turns, he still has to grit his teeth and persevere. There is never nothing in this world for nothing. In order to gain great power, you have to pay a very heavy price at the same time. However, Xiao Yan's move to fuse the power of the source of the different fires in the list of different fires on the Dochi continent is undoubtedly tortuous, but this is a process of precipitation. Once successful, Xiao Yan will be able to rely on the fusion fighting skills to be able to disdain the heroes in the future. But even if there is such a powerful and bizarre technique as Fenju, if it fails, the consequences will be the splendid flames of 22 colors, when touching each other at every critical point, no matter how compressed Xiao Yan was, they would not merge anymore, and, with Xiao Yan's unwilling oppression, the terrifying energy in the flame fused by the 22 different fires also began to gradually become violent. Bang! There was another muffled thunder explosion, and the overwhelming flames in the terrifying flame energy group in front of Xiao Yan flew all over the sky, and then they just scurried around. Xiao Yan frowned when he saw the flames in front of him that exceeded his expectations. Then he saw the huge flames burst open, and looked down at it like a deflated balloon. Xiao Yan's pupils tightened slightly. He knew that this was a precursor to the violent explosion of energy. Xiao Yan, quickly dissipate them. If you go further, it will explode. Perceiving the violent energy of heaven and earth around Xiao Yan's body, his master Jinlong King also shouted anxiously. The Golden Dragon King obviously didn't know what Xiao Yan was doing, but since the fusion of the 22 types of flames, everything didn't go well, and now there are other problems. So he was also worried about Xiao Yan's safety and shouted NOVLB//in.C//om. Hey, he really knows the heights of the sky. The three-winged unicorn, sensing those violent energy factors, laughed proudly. However, while laughing, the huge beast pupils were also staring at Xiao Yan. Obviously, the young man in front of him had already obtained some approval from the three-winged unicorn, so the three-winged unicorn also had a hand. On the one hand, he wanted to look at what the man in front of him will fuse. On the one hand, he is worried that the man will make some impulsive decisions because they stole his sister. Without listening to the opinions of his master, the Golden Dragon King, Xiao Yan stared at the violent flames in front of him. With the extreme concentration of his spirit, at a certain moment, the world seemed to suddenly become quiet, and even the sound of the wind disappeared. Down. At this moment, Xiao Yang's pupils suddenly burst into a daze, but at this moment, his fingertips became as flexible as picking flowers through leaves, and his 10 fingers moved rapidly in the flames. At the same time, the huge battle qi that was run by Fen Ju was poured into it. With the infusion of Fen Dual qi, the violent flame group in front of Xiao Yang turned quiet gradually. After a second of silence, I burst into a more terrifying rage than before. Factor. Because the 22 different fires also felt a dangerous aura under Xiao Yang's vindictive aura, and the vindictiveness that had undergone the burning decision obviously wanted to condense and compress them into one. But how could these 22 different colors of different fires allow Xiao Yang to merge so easily? And they immediately fought vigorously. Damn. Give me a fusion. Xiao Yang was also surprised by the sudden burst of violent energy from the 22 different types of flames in front of him, and then the whole body's soul power roared away. The terrifying soul force had just come into contact with the huge flame group, and the flame group that was fused by 22 different types of fire burst out with a powerful force to resist Xiao Yang's invasion. Xiao Yang also did not expect that this fusion would be so difficult, and he was filled with vindictive energy immediately, and his soul power irrigated the flames in front of him. Blue veins burst out on his body, and his black eyes stared fiercely at the flames in front of him. The 22 colors of flames squirmed slightly, and finally, in the shocking gaze of the three-winged unicorn, they slowly condensed into a tiny seed only the size of Xiao Yang's palm. There are 22 bewitching colors on the seemingly small seeds. Let's call you the Lotus of Nirvana. Xiao Yang also slowly sighed, looking at the tiny 22-colored lotus seeds on his palms. The corners of his mouth also exuded a seductive smile. At the moment when the 22-colored lotus seeds were formed, Xiao Yang trembled, looked down at the tiny lotus seeds in his hands, and murmured in a low voice, "Success." The words fell. Xiao Yang's face was rapidly pale, the dazed look in his eyes disappeared suddenly. At the same time, he was almost conditioned reflex. The lotus seeds of 22 colors in his hand slammed into the distance in the shocking three-winged unicorn in. The exquisite lotus seeds containing 22 colors fell off from Xiao Yang's palm, and then, under the use of gravity in his hand, silently swept through the void, not even a little bit of wind along the way. However, this is with such a light-hearted posture, the three-winged unicorn, covered in pure white and with scales, suddenly stood upside down. The exquisite lotus seeds containing 22 colors hurriedly shot at the three-winged unicorn. The space that the lotus seeds passed seemed to be sluggish, but just as it was about to reach the latter's 100-meter range, the outermost circle on the lotus seeds appeared. The originally peaceful lotus seed suddenly became violent. The lotus seed shrank, and then expanded, and then an uncontrollable, earth-shattering explosion sounded above the void. Boom! Destruction-like energy spreads out from the void, and the void space is bursting with ripples at this moment. A towering mountain peak not far away, the ripples spread, the mountain bursts with a bang, and the fracture is smooth like a mountain. Mirror. At this moment, the Mantian waterfall in the distance has completely stopped flowing, as if time has stopped. In two opposite directions, thousands of miles away from the Warcraft Mountains, a few flashes of light and shadows suddenly stopped the sky, and suddenly raised his head to look out of sight, a face like tree bark and a pretty and beautiful face, all over the place shocked and unbelievable. How is it possible? Xiao Yang he. Feeling the violent energy of the flames that filled the sky, Yu also knew immediately that something had happened to Xiao Yang, and then her beautiful eyes flickered slightly. This kid is really restless. What is he doing? In the luxurious room of the Alchemist Association, Baisu also raised his head and looked at the terrifying energy group like a mushroom cloud in the faraway Beast Mountain. Boom boom boom! The splendid lotus of terrifying annihilation fused with 22 different fires exploded above the blue sky, like the asterisk of fire descending on the world, sweeping the sky, and in an instant, the temperature of this world suddenly increased a lot. Immediately, as the lotus of silentness was about to approach the three-winged unicorn, a terrifying energy that was so powerful that even a 5-star duty expert felt troublesome exploded. The explosive energy of the lotus of destruction is like a mushroom cloud, attracting the attention of the entire demonic Beast Mountains. In Qingcheng, countless people looked up stupidly at the terrifying fire wave that swept across the sky. Even though they were separated by thousands of meters, the fiery fire wave still made me sweat profusely. It's like being in a molten hell. On the blue sky, the fire wave burst out in the shape of a mushroom cloud, with the explosion point as the center. All creatures around it were devastated. The grove where Xiao Yang was previously was also completely unrecognizable, and the Mantian waterfall in the distance also lost its traces of flow due to the destructive power of this terrifying Lotus of Annihilation. The Lotus of Annihilation fused by 22 different fires would be so terrifying. The waves of fire all over the sky continued to drift out from the mushroom cloud at the center of the explosion. Wherever the flames went, no grass grew, and even the ground exuded thick high temperatures. The huge three-winged unicorn, because of its size and the distance from the explosion, was undoubtedly the most violent. In the wave of destruction that swept out, the three-winged unicorn, the originally beautiful and white hair on the beast's body was completely shattered by nearly half. On the dark body, the dark red blood continued to seep out, and then it was like rain, and it kept dripping down. Under the shattered body, several terrifying scars visible to the naked eye spread out, covering almost the entire back of his body. At first glance, it seemed that the white bones could still be faintly seen. When Xiao Yan had just merged into the Lotus of Destruction, the three-winged unicorn felt an aura of death and was just about to escape, but was unexpectedly hit by Xiao Yang's soul attack and missed the final escape time. Otherwise, at the speed of the three-winged unicorn, it is very easy to avoid this Lotus of Silence. After the three-winged unicorn returned to normal, the terrifying Lotus of Annihilation came to him in a blink of an eye. The three-winged unicorn also hurriedly waved the 3 pairs of wings on its back, and then the unicorn on its forehead also slowed down. Slowly exuding terrifying power, it surrounded its entire body alone. The unicorn on the forehead of the three-winged unicorn is known as the hardest and most protective horn, but even so, under the attack of Xiao Yang's Annihilation Lotus, the 3 pairs of pure white wings behind it all fell off, and the blood slowly flowed out from it like a small stream, and the three-winged unicorn's forehead unicorn also slowly made a cracking sound. At this point, the three-winged unicorn has a hideous face, and the ridicule has disappeared from the huge beast's eyes. Instead, there is a utter horror, a miserable and embarrassing appearance, and there is no previous pride and arrogance. On the other hand, Xiao Yang's clothes were also destroyed at this time. Although the Lotus of Annihilation was fused by himself, the power of this thing was too terrifying, and Xiao Yang was also fused for the first time, so in terms of control, there is not much heat. Looking at the scorched incense on his skin, Xiao Yang is also gasping for breath, and then the medicine pill in the ring is as if he doesn't want money. Go with your mouth. As soon as a lot of medicinal pills were entered, they turned into pure energies that continuously nourished Xiao Yang's severely injured body. After doing all this, his eyes returned to the sky, staring at the center of the mushroom cloud, where the three-winged unicorn was located. Damn human boy, fellow, you lunatic, I hate fighting with lunatics like you the most. If you hadn't had some relationship with that girl, I would have killed you by now. Far away, the three-winged unicorn finally regained consciousness and felt the state of serious injury in his body. He shivered with his huge body and cursed loudly. He knew in his heart that if it wasn't for Xiao Yang before, it was because he used the terrifying Fire Lotus for the first time. If the accuracy and control are inaccurate, he has no doubts, the current self, I am afraid that he will directly enter the level of deep and serious injury. At that time, his strength will be greatly reduced, and at worst, he will fall on the spot. Looking at the three-winged unicorn that seemed to still have some strength even though it was seriously injured, Xiao Yang's face darkened slightly, and the remaining fighting spirit in his body was slowly flowing, ready to deal with this furious three-winged unicorn at any time. However, just as Xiao Yang was preparing to fight, the three-winged unicorn scolded a few times, but shrank away from Xiao Yang. After a brief pause, the severely injured body of the three-winged unicorn suddenly vibrated violently, and immediately turned around and ran away under Xiao Yang's stunned gaze. Mass, you monster, can't I afford to provoke or hide? The three-winged unicorn swiftly flew towards the sky with its huge body, escaping as fast as it saw a devil. The means of this human boy in front of him are endless, and even with the strength of the three-winged unicorn, he will not be afraid of Xiao Yang, but unfortunately Xiao Yang is the elder brother of the girl, and the purple-winged angel is not his only position in the angel family. The little three-winged unicorn can handle it, so it is extremely depressing to leave. Xiao Yang looked at the three-winged unicorn that left, and just wanted to chase after him, but he was helpless because of the injury in his body, so he had to sit cross-legged calmly, and then carefully adjusted the severely injured body. At the same time, Wucheng, which is far away, is also putting on a good show that cannot be missed. Xiao Yang also quickly adjusted the injury in his body, and then moved his mind to control the trace of soul clone that was far away in the sky. In the distant Wucheng, a group of people also gathered in a dark secret room. Wu Huan was sitting on a chair, supported by the man in black before, and there was a man in grey who was equally burly, but his body exuded terrifying fluctuations. If Yu was here, then he would definitely recognized, this is the Lord of Wuchang, a strong 5-star Dodi. Next to them, the head of the Mu family and Mullah, there are a few figures, without exception, they all exude a dark grudge, which makes people feel particularly eerie. In front of these people, there is a familiar figure bound by multiple chains. Xiao Yang. City Lord, you were not there when I arrested Xiao Yang and returned, and then we took him to the back room and imprisoned him. Now that you are back. Murray also respectfully said to the man in grey. After all, not only it is because he is the Lord of Wuchang, but because he is too close to the people of that force. Well, you did a good job. I heard from them that their race blood in the lower realms suddenly disappeared. There is only one possibility, that is, their lower realm race has been wiped out. And according to the information I got, you are the only one who came out of the nether. So, tell me, how did your soul clan in the lower realms disappear? Xiao Yang, who was a little weak, also frowned when he heard the words, then looked at the many people in front of him and muttered to himself, how else can I disappear? I will kill them all. It seemed like an understatement, but it made the people in black behind Wu Huan and some people surrounded by black vindictive shudders shudder, and then stared straight at Xiao Yang, with those eyes that seemed to be able to eat her. Damn boy, you actually ruined the good things of our soul clan and cut off the blood power of our lower realm. The man in black also said viciously. Their soul clan was also promoted to Dodi from Dochi continent and came to Dodi continent to establish a foothold, but even if they have children and descendants in Dodi continent, their blood concentration is not as high as that of the Aborigines on Dochi continent. This is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that they have left some footprints on the Dochi continent, so that the people on the Dochi continent have enough faith in them. On the body, the improvement of strength is like a natural progression, and now without the huge power of belief in Dochi continent, some things of their soul race in Dodi continent have also become slow. Damn it. Since the power of faith disappeared, the big people in the clan have been furious. If we can't find the culprit and another huge power of faith, then I think our plan will be postponed again. The man in black also looked at Xiao Yang hideously. The plan that has been planned for so many years has to be suspended in the middle because of a nether kid. This is true. Soul Deacon, please calm down. If the power of faith is gone, you can find it again. Although our plan will be postponed, this is a reality that cannot be changed. But I'm just curious. According to Deacon Soul, it's already impossible for your lower realm to be promoted to Dodi. How could this kid in front of you? The man in grey also stared at Xiao Yang in front of him with interest. Xiao Yang, who was bound by the chains, found that the dark chains on his body seemed to be constantly eroding the vindictive energy in his body, even his vitality. This important discovery made Xiao Yang have to pay attention to it again. And what is the power of belief and plan of the so-called Soul Deacon? Nothing is impossible. He suppressed the doubts in his heart, and then spoke slowly. It seems that your mouth is really hard, but it doesn't matter if you don't say it. As long as you are dead, then everything will be easy to talk about. Then, Mueller also said. Obviously, Mueller is also extremely cruel to Xiao Yang. After all, Mueller has always had some unreasonable thoughts about Yuejia Yueru, and he robbed Crescent Moon green fruit for future plans. Now that Xiao Yang and Xiao Yang are so close, he is very heartbroken. Unhappy, and then also DGE, staring at Xiao Yang. Where's Crescent Moon Tsuegua? The man in black also asked. After all, this is something as important as inheritance medicine, and it is impossible to say that we will have to rely on this thing to deal with the fairy moon in the future. I ate it. Xiao Yang also responded. Damn it. The man in black also slowly sensed Xiao Yang's body, a stream of pure energy resembling a crescent moon green fruit, and immediately thought about how to remedy it. After all, the power of their lower realms and beliefs disappeared, and the big people in the clan were already angry. This time the inheritance medicine has not been obtained, so he can imagine that when he returns to the clan this time, his fate will be. Hey, why are you talking nonsense with him? Just kill him directly, and then use the soul power to demonize. Since the crescent moon green fruit was eaten by him, it is the same with his blood, so that he can never get away. Wu Huan he also looked at Xiao Yang fiercely, and then said word by word. After all, when I went to the depths of the Warcraft Mountains, I just wanted to kill Xiao Yang and obtain the so-called great fortune in him. What I didn't expect was that not only did I fail, but instead, I used the power of the source to hurt the source, so now it's also. When Xiao Yang heard the words, he also quickly calculated in his heart. In this way, as far as Xiao Yang knows, there should be an unspeakable deal or conspiracy between Solomon, Wuchang, Soul Clan and the extraterritorial evil clan Xiao Yang, who was bound by thick chains, also gave up his struggle, and in his heart, dozens of extremely delicate lotus seeds were slowly spinning. Ha ha ha, I haven't seen such a bold boy for a long time. I can feel the unusualness of those flames on your body. After you die, we will laugh at everything. The man in grey also laughed. Forget it, let's deal with him as soon as possible, otherwise it would be difficult for us to deal with it if asked. The man in black also said. Well. Many unanimous voices appeared in the secret room. If that's the case, then I'll send you to hell. Remember not to provoke our soul clan in the future, or you will end up in the end. Death. After speaking, the man in grey also laughed, with a particularly gloomy smile, and then the terrifying pitch-black fighting chi in his hand slowly condensed on his palm, and then walked towards Xiao Yang in front of him step by step. Then let's die together. Xiao Yang in front of him also smiled strangely, and then the terrifying flames exploded. Even the dark chains could not cover up the terrifying power of the flames. A dozen or so beautiful lotus seeds appeared in this small place. Inside the secret room, a wave of death appeared in everyone's heart. Not good. The man in grey and the man in black said at the same time, and then the majestic Do Chi roared out of him and went towards Xiao Yang, trying to resist Xiao Yang's terrifying power of flame. The huge black Do Chi and silver Do Chi of the two rushed towards Xiao Yang, and Xiao Yang had no intention of evading at all. When the Do Chi ignited, the strength in the body instantly increased to the extreme, and then it exploded. The dozens of exquisite fire lotus seeds in Xiao Yang's heart were condensed and placed on Xiao Yang's body before. Although the power was not comparable to the lotus of annihilation that attacked the three-winged unicorn before, its power was not to be underestimated. Watch for. After all, the Murray family, the Soul Deacon and most of Wucheng's mainstays are in this secret room. Once these fire lotus seeds that contain terrifying energy explode, then they are so close, even if they don't die, they will peel off their skin. To say that it is late is quick. The Lord of Wucheng and Murray, plus the man in black, instantly covered the huge fighting spirit, and then cut off the slowly blooming flames on Xiao Yang's body. Come on. The Lord of Wucheng also shouted loudly. The Soul Deacon also couldn't figure it out. Xiao Yang was obviously bound by his own soul chain, and his fighting chi couldn't work. How could such a terrifying fire lotus seed be condensed? Soul Avatar? Murray also suddenly noticed a trace of anomaly in Xiao Yang in front of him and said, and he had no choice but to defend against the terrifying flame energy together. However, the Soul Deacon man in black obviously could not have imagined that Xiao Yang in front of him was not the real Xiao Yang. At best, he was just a clone condensed from soul power, but the soul power of those present was not stronger than that of Xiao Yang. So even the avatar of soul power cannot be found. Moreover, those terrifying fire lotus seeds were also condensed by Xiao Yang before he was sealed by the three elders of the Mu family. This is a big gift from Xiao Yang to Wucheng and the Mu family. Xiao Yang's weird smile shattered, and then his whole body exploded like glass shattering. Xiao Yang's soul clone exploded, and most of the impact was resisted by the Lord of Wucheng, Murray, and Soul Deacon. But before the three of them could breathe a sigh of relief, a fear from the heart emerged in everyone's heart. At the place where Xiao Yang had exploded, dozens of beautiful lotus seeds appeared in front of everyone's eyes, and then they felt that the space trembled slightly. Boom, boom, boom. The terrifying fire lotus exploded one after another, resounding like a chain of bombs. The small secret room was instantly filled with terrifying energy, and with three sounds of bang bang bang, the secret room exploded. A soaring flame explosion sounded from Wucheng. The power of the huge flame made the land in the area of tens of kilometers in Wucheng filled with a smell of scorched earth. When Xiao Yang in the Warcraft Mountains saw the sky-high explosion in the distance where Wucheng was located, the corner of his mouth also smiled fiercely, and then a mouthful of blood spurted out. Wiping the blood from the corners of his mouth, Xiao Yang also laughed. This Wucheng actually wanted to blame himself for using martial arts, and now this terrifying flame can be regarded as a lesson for them, which is really heartwarming. However, Xiao Yang also frowned slightly, because the soul clone that was sealed and captured by the three elders of the Mu family exploded, causing certain damage to Xiao Yang's soul, although that soul clone was just a clone, not a condensed soul force. Out entity. The terrifying fire lotus seeds exploded from the secret room, and then the powerful explosion impact burst the small secret room, and then went straight to the sky. A huge beam of flame energy visible to the naked eye rose from the side of Wucheng. This is. Yu and the others also came to the place where the Beast Mountain range exploded before, but they did not find any trace of Xiao Yang, so they had no choice but to stare at the skyrocketing energy flame beam in the direction of Wucheng, and muttered to themselves. The energy in the flame seemed familiar. and looked at the explosion that was about to subside in the Warcraft Mountains. This breath, it's Xiao Yang. You also saw through the power of flame at a glance. After all, she and Xiao Yang went deep into the ruins and were quite familiar with the power of flame on Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang, this kid really gave Wuching a great gift. The third elder also looked at the huge flame energy in the distance and said. The three of them looked at this terrifying beam of flame energy, and they could feel the scorching temperature and the terrifying destructive power from hundreds of miles away, not to mention the Wuching near the center of the explosion. This kid is really a big hand. Bai Su also looked at the huge flame energy and said with a smile. Among the 7 cities with a radius of 100 miles, this Wuching also belongs to the rank of soil hegemons. No one has ever tried to provoke them, and the 7 cities are developing independently. Just because the master of this Wuching is a 5-star Dodi strong, and the 5-star Dodi strong is enough to prove its heritage, but the Yu family is not afraid of this Wuching. Before, because of the dark disease of Yu, they did not intervene too much. Things are different now. Yu has regained her strength and has the power to fight Wuching. As for the Alchemist Association, not to mention, even with the strength of Wuching, would not dare to rashly take action against the Alchemist Association without absolute certainty, because everyone knows that refining the pharmacist is the most difficult character to deal with. This kid is really bold. Bai Ruo on the side said slowly. That's fine, kill the prestige of Wuching, after all, their actions are too strong. Bai Su said. But this Xiao Yang has caused so much trouble, and it's already a life-and-death situation with Wuching. Bai Ruo seemed to be hesitant to speak. Ha ha ha, did you forget that in a few days, the messenger of Xian Santian is coming? And looking at the power of the explosion, this martial city has suffered heavy losses, and there is no spare energy to deal with him in a short period of time. Bai Su said as he looked at the huge beam of flame energy. The terrifying energy fluctuations slowly fell silent, but the Wuching at this time was beyond recognition. In the past, the huge Wuching building lost most of it in this terrifying explosion. One of Mueller's arms was also melted by the flame. Wu Huan had already injured the source, and the injury was not yet healed, and he encountered such a powerful explosion, was also damaged by this terrifying explosion, and the Soul Deacon, Murray, and the Lord of Wuching were all injured to varying degree. The terrifying power of this Fire Lotus can be seen by hurting a 4-star Dodi strong man or even a 5-star Dodi strong man. Above the sky, a figure stared viciously into the distance, and then spit it out word by word. Xiao Yang's little bastard. The revenge of killing a son is never shared. Seeing that the explosion in the Wuching slowly subsided, Xiao Yang also felt relieved, thinking that he would not be able to find trouble for himself in this Wuching in a short time. After all, the explosion of Wuching this time was a heavy loss. The elites in the family lost more than 2/3. Wu Huan's only son, Wu Huan, also died in this explosion, and the elites of the Mu family also lost nearly 1/3. And then all the people brought by the Soul Deacon died except he. Because at the moment of the explosion, Soul Deacon used the body and soul power of his subordinates to form a huge protective film in front of him, so he was the least injured in this explosion. Damn little bastards, dare to tease us. The Lord of Wuching also said angrily, and then grabbed it out of thin air, and an air of nothingness appeared on his palm. The weak breath is the power of Wu Huan's soul, but after the explosion just now, this soul power is also weak and insignificant, like a spark that may be extinguished at any time. City Lord, please calm down. Wu Huan's situation is not without medicine. It has been recorded in our soul clan that if we use the soul power of many strong people to infuse, Wu Huan will be able to regenerate. Soul Deacon also said. Is this true? The Lord of Wuching was also surprised. Although he didn't know what the Soul Clan was thinking about, they had only cooperated with the Soul Clan before, exchanging information and things with each other. Don't worry, there is no need for our dignified Soul Clan to lie to you. The Soul Deacon also said. In this case, the Lord of Wuching also carefully planned in his heart. He is such an only son. Although he is a little jealous, his cultivation has not fallen. In the future, Wu Huan will naturally inherit his position. After careful consideration, he agreed. Soul Deacon. After all, this so-called Soul Clan is too mysterious and powerful. Since they have a way to save their son, why not do it? Well, City Master Wu needs to collect enough souls, and then... Soul Deacon also laughed. The people of the Mu family on the side were also shocked when they heard the words. The Lord of Wuching and the Soul Deacon seemed to be whispering something. On the other side, Xiao Yang was also merging the power of 22 different fire sources, and the terrifying destructive power of the Lotus of Annihilation made him quite satisfied, and then he controlled his soul clone to attack Wucheng. After the terrifying return, after all this tossing, Xiao Yang's strength couldn't stand it, and then he also found a cave in the depths of the demonic beast mountains and prepared to cultivate. In a hole about 10 meters in length, Xiao Yang placed a huge ancient ruler of different fire in front of him, and then sat down with his legs crossed, carefully conditioning the injury in his body. Sure enough, the fusion of the 22 different fire origin powers consumed a lot of soul power, and then the remaining soul power was used to control the soul clones in the distance. At this time, Xiao Yang was also pale, and his soul power was almost used and empty. However, it is also fortunate that Xiao Yang has a lot of medicinal pills to restore his vindictive energy and even his soul power, so he just found a cave to cultivate. Hey, Xiao Yanzi, the kind of Lotus of Annihilation that you fused before is too terrifying. If it wasn't for your soul power to step into the Emperor realm, your fate would not be as terrifying as that three-winged unicorn. Much better. His master Jinlong King also flew out slowly and said to Xiao Yang, who was adjusting his breath. When Xiao Yang heard the words, he also laughed. After all, the fusion of the power of the source of the different fires was his trump card on the Do-Chi continent. He had to practice it when he came to this Do-Di continent, but fortunately, even on the Do-Di continent, this Lotus of Annihilation is also a powerful killer of Xiao Yang. The only downside is that it takes time to fuse such a terrifying Lotus of Silence. Although the breath of the Cyan woman from earlier is familiar, I don't remember that I have ever met. But one thing is certain, the unicorn is the sitting force and partner of the angel family, and the Cyan woman should also be an angel. Moreover, the unicorn has 3 wings, and its status in the family is not low. In this case, you don't need to worry too much about Qing Yuan's niece. Presumably she will not be weaker than you in the future. The Golden Dragon King analyzed. When his master Jinlong Wang analyzed, Xiao Yang had also completed his conditioning, and the injuries caused by the fusion of the Lotus of Annihilation in his body had almost recovered. 7, 7, 8, 8, and the rest can only be recovered slowly. Heh. Why did the master explain that? Xiao Yang also cast doubtful eyes. Although he had vaguely guessed that the white wings behind the Cyan woman should have something to do with Qing Yuan, he did not think that they really of the same race. Moreover, Xiao Yang also fought against the 3-winged unicorn, which really made Xiao Yang a little. You don't know, the angel family is divided into positions by wings, from half-angels with 1 wing to gods with 12 wings, except for the wings, it is divided by the color of the wings. The angels with green wings are responsible for guarding, and the angels with red wings are responsible for guarding. They are in charge of law enforcement, and the angels with white wings are the angel group, and they have powerful healing methods, so they are not good at fighting, the Golden Dragon King said slowly. What about Qing Yuan's purple wings? Xiao Yang also knew that although Qing Yuan's wings were pure white at the beginning, they turned purple under the blooming of the colorful flowers, and the purple was not brought by the colorful flowers. Going, as if Qing Yuan owns it, the colorful Yuyan flower just plays the role of a medicinal guide. As for the angel with purple wings, it is the most expensive blood flowing, and he still knows the real resurrection magic when he has the power of healing. Humans are generally called archangels, or envoy. The Golden Dragon King also murmured. When Xiao Yang heard this, it sounded like thunder in his heart. Qing Yuan is actually. Xiao Yang also shrank his pupils tightly. Although he didn't know why Qing Yuan fell into this small Qing Cheng, the word God Envoy could be tainted with the word God Envoy. The potential is too scary. Moreover, the word's resurrection magic shocked Xiao Yang too much. Once a normal person dies, apart from the method of refining the body with the remaining soul, how else can he be resurrected? This is obviously the reason why the angel family has always been standing at the peak of the Great Thousand World. Xiao Yang also comforted himself. These things are too far away from you. You will know in the future. Since you are sure that Qing Yuan is fine, you should also look at the scroll of the vertebrae obtained in the ruins. The Golden Dragon King also returned to normal, facing Xiao Yang. This video will end here.